What kind of person demands a discount on dishes for being too fragile, then rages when they break? Karen was that person. Her name wasn't just a name, it was a warning. In the small town of Willow Creek, Karen Mitchell was infamous. She'd storm into stores, her voice a weapon, haggling over prices with a ferocity that left clerks shell-shocked. At Harper's Homeware, a family-owned shop known for its delicate ceramics, Karen had found her latest battleground. She'd been coming in for weeks, each visit a performance. "These plates are too thin," she'd bellow, holding a saucer to the light as if it were a crime scene exhibit. "They'll break the second you use them. I'm not paying full price for something this flimsy." The staff, led by young manager Emily Harper, had tried reasoning with her. Emily, barely 25, had inherited the shop from her late grandmother, whose love for craftsmanship was etched into every piece. Karen's demands wore on Emily's patience, but she'd smile, nod, and offer a small discount just to keep the peace. Last Tuesday, though, Karen crossed a line. She'd haggled a set of 12 dinner plates down to half price, claiming their fragile nature was a defect. Emily, against her better judgment, agreed, hoping it would end the saga. Karen left triumphant, plates in hand, her smug grin a promise of trouble. 3 days later, she was back. The shop's bell jangled as Karen burst through the door, a cardboard box under her arm. Emily, restocking teacups, froze. Karen slammed the box on the counter, cracked plates spilling out like broken promises. "These are garbage," she shouted, her voice drowning out the soft jazz playing in the background. "I want my money back, and I want it now." Emily's heart sank. She recognized the plates, her grandmother's favorite pattern, hand-painted roses on bone-white porcelain. They were pristine when they left the store. Now half were shattered, the others webbed with cracks. "You sold me defective junk," Karen continued, her face red, spittle flying. "I barely touched them and they fell apart. I'm not leaving until you refund me and compensate for my time." Emily, her hands trembling, picked up a shard. The break was clean, unnatural, as if struck with force. She glanced at Karen, whose eyes glinted with something more than anger calculation. Emily's stomach twisted. This wasn't about fragile plates. This was a setup. Emily took a breath, steadying herself. "Karen, let's go over what happened. These plates were inspected before they left. Can you explain how they broke?" Her voice was calm, but her pulse raced. Karen scoffed, folding her arms. "They broke because they're cheap. I set them on my table, and they just cracked. You think I'm lying?" The 2 customers in the shop, a quiet elderly woman and a teenage boy, shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between Karen and Emily. The elderly woman clutched her purse, whispering to the boy, "She's done this before." Emily's mind raced. She'd heard rumors about Karen's tactics, haggling for discounts, then returning items damaged, demanding refunds and more. Last month, she'd bullied a bakery into refunding a stale cake she'd clearly dropped. The hardware store down the street had banned her after she returned a faulty hammer with a dented handle. Emily had no proof, but her gut screamed that Karen had smashed these plates herself. The question was why. Then came the twist. A memory surfaced. 2 weeks ago, Karen had lingered by the shop's display of rare, limited edition teapots, $200 apiece, non-negotiable. She'd pressed Emily to lower the price, but Emily had held firm, citing their value. Karen's face had darkened, and she'd muttered, "You'll regret that." Now, staring at the cracked plates, Emily realized this was no ordinary complaint. Karen wasn't just after a refund. She was after revenge. Emily's voice hardened. "Karen, I'm not refunding these. They were perfect when you bought them. If you want, we can review the store's security footage." Karen's smirk faltered, just for a second, but it was enough. Emily's heart leapt. The shop's cameras, installed after a break-in last year, recorded every sale. If Karen had been careless, there might be evidence. But Karen recovered quickly, leaning over the counter, her bulk casting a shadow. "You're calling me a liar? I'll sue this dump. You'll be out of business by next week." The elderly customer gasped, and the boy pulled out his phone, recording. Emily felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about plates Anna Maria, it was about her grandmother's legacy, her livelihood, and standing up to a bully who thrived on intimidation. She met Karen's glare. "Let's check the footage," she said, her voice steady now. "If I'm wrong, I'll refund you double." Karen's eyes widened, but she didn't back down. "Fine," she spat. "Show me. You'll see I'm right." Emily led the way to the back office, Karen trailing like a storm cloud. The customers followed, sensing a showdown. In the cramped office, Emily pulled up the footage on her laptop. The screen flickered, showing Karen at the counter 3 days ago, inspecting the plates. Emily's breath caught. There, clear as day, was Karen slipping one plate into her purse while Emily rang up the others. The camera didn't lie. Karen had taken an extra plate, unpaid for. Emily paused the video, her heart pounding. "Care to explain this?" she asked, turning to Karen. Karen's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The elderly woman in the doorway whispered, "Gotcha." The boy's phone was still recording, capturing every second of Karen's unraveling. Karen's silence filled the tiny office like a held breath. Her eyes darted from the laptop screen to Emily, then to the 2 customers crowding the doorway. The elderly woman, Mrs. Clara, stood with her arms crossed, her lips pursed in quiet triumph. The teenage boy, Jake, kept his phone steady, its lens a silent judge. Emily's pulse thrummed in her ears. The footage was damning. Karen, caught stealing a plate, her hand slipping it into her purse with practiced ease. But Emily knew this was only the beginning. Karen wasn't the type to go down without a fight. "You doctored that video," Karen finally blurted, her voice shrill, cracking under the weight of her own lie. She jabbed a finger at Emily, her face flushing red again. "This is a setup. You're trying to frame me to avoid your refund policy." Emily's jaw tightened. She'd expected this. Karen's playbook was predictable: deflect, accuse, escalate. But Emily wasn't backing down. "The footage is time-stamped, Karen," she said, her voice low and firm. "It's stored on a cloud server, unedited. Would you like me to pull the raw file?" Karen's mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. Mrs. Clara let out a soft chuckle, and Jake's camera caught the flicker of panic in Karen's eyes. Emily pressed her advantage. "You took an extra plate without paying. Then you come back with broken ones, claiming they were defective. I think you broke them yourself to scam us." The words hung heavy, each one a stone dropped into the silence. Karen's face twisted, her arrogance crumbling into something uglier: desperation. "You can't prove that," Karen snapped, but her voice wavered. She took a step toward Emily, her bulk looming in the cramped space. Emily held her ground, though her knees trembled. She thought of her grandmother, who'd faced down suppliers and skeptics to build this shop. She wouldn't let Karen bully her into submission. "I don't have to prove it yet," Emily said. "The police can handle that. I'm calling them." Karen laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "The police? For what? A few broken plates? You're pathetic." But her eyes betrayed her, flicking to the door as if calculating her escape. Emily pulled out her phone, dialing the non-emergency line. Mrs. Clara nodded approvingly, and Jake whispered, "This is going viral." Emily's stomach churned. She didn't want this to be a spectacle, but Karen had left her no choice. As Emily spoke to the dispatcher, Karen's demeanor shifted. She leaned in, lowering her voice to a venomous hiss. "You think you're smart, huh? I know people. I'll have this shop shut down. Health violations, tax audits, you name it. You're done." The threat sent a chill down Emily's spine, but it also sparked a realization. Karen wasn't just a petty scammer. She'd done this before, systematically, weaponizing her connections to intimidate small businesses. The twist deepened. Emily remembered a conversation with the bakery owner, who'd mentioned Karen bragging about friends in City Hall. This wasn't just about plates, it was a power play. The police arrived within 20 minutes, 2 officers stepping into the shop with calm authority. Officer Daniels, a grizzled veteran with kind eyes, took Emily's statement while his partner, Officer Lee, examined the broken plates. Karen, now seated in a corner, spun a frantic tale of being tricked into buying faulty goods. But the footage spoke louder. Officer Daniels watched the video, his brow furrowing as Karen's theft played out. "Ma'am," he said, turning to Karen, "this doesn't look good for you. Care to explain why you took that plate?" Karen's story unraveled faster than a cheap sweater. She stammered, claiming it was an accident, then doubled down, accusing Emily of planting the plate in her purse. Officer Lee raised an eyebrow, holding up a cracked saucer. "These breaks aren't natural," he said. "They're consistent with being struck, not dropped. We'll need to take these for evidence." Karen's face went pale, her hands clenching into fists. Emily felt a flicker of pity. Karen's bravado was collapsing, revealing a woman trapped by her own schemes. But pity didn't erase the damage. Emily's shop was a small business, barely breaking even. Karen's stunt could have cost her thousands, not to mention the emotional toll. As the officers questioned Karen, Mrs. Clara approached Emily, her voice soft. "You did the right thing, dear. She's been terrorizing shops for years. My nephew at the hardware store banned her, but she always finds a new target." Emily nodded, grateful but exhausted. Jake, still filming, gave her a thumbs up. "This is going on X," he said. "People need to see this." The confrontation reached its peak as Officer Daniels asked Karen to come to the station for a formal statement. She stood, her face a mask of defiance, but her hands shook. "This isn't over," she muttered, glaring at Emily. "You'll regret this." The words were meant to intimidate, but they fell flat. Emily met her gaze, unflinching. "I'm not afraid of you, Karen. This shop is my family's heart. You don't get to break it." The officers escorted Karen out, the shop's bell jingling as the door closed behind them. Mrs. Clara and Jake stayed, offering words of support. Emily sank into a chair, adrenaline fading into bone-deep fatigue. She'd won this round, but at what cost? The plates were gone, her trust in customers shaken. Yet something stirred in Hera's spark of resilience. She wasn't just fighting for her shop. She was fighting for every small business owner who'd faced a Karen and felt powerless. The days following Karen's exit were a blur. Emily reopened the shop the next morning, her hands still shaking as she dusted the shelves. The cracked plates, now evidence, sat in a police locker, but their absence left a hole in the shop's inventory and Emily's heart. Those rose-patterned dishes were her grandmother's design, a reminder of late nights spent sketching patterns together. Losing them to Karen's scheme felt like losing a piece of her legacy. But Willow Creek wasn't a town that let bullies win. Word of the confrontation spread, thanks to Jake's video on X, which racked up thousands of views. Comments poured in, "Karen got what she deserved," and "Support Harper's Homeware." Emily was overwhelmed, torn between gratitude and unease at the attention. Karen, meanwhile, didn't slink away quietly. She took to X herself, posting a rambling screed accusing Harper's Homeware of fraud and discrimination. "They sold me broken plates and framed me," she wrote, her words dripping with venom. She tagged local officials, hinting at her connections. Emily's phone buzzed with notifications as customers rallied to her defense, sharing stories of Karen's antics at other shops. The bakery owner posted about the stale cake. The hardware store owner recounted the hammer incident. A pattern emerged. Karen's scams were a town-wide plague. Emily faced a choice: let Karen's threats fade or pursue justice. She chose the latter. With Mrs. Clara's encouragement, she contacted a lawyer, a kind woman named Sarah who offered pro bono help after seeing Jake's video. Sarah dug into Karen's history, uncovering a trail of small claims lawsuits and settled complaints. Karen had bullied her way to refunds and payouts, exploiting businesses too small to fight back. But this time, she'd picked the wrong target. Sarah filed a police report for theft and fraud, citing the footage and the unnatural breaks in the plates. The legal process was slow, but the community's support was swift. Customers flooded Harper's Homeware, buying teacups and platters, leaving notes of encouragement. "Don't let her win," one read, tucked under a saucer. Jake's video kept gaining traction, drawing reporters from the local paper. Emily gave a quiet interview, focusing on her grandmother's legacy and the shop's resilience. She didn't mention Karen by name. She didn't need to. The town knew. Karen's downfall came 2 months later. The police investigation confirmed the plates were deliberately broken, likely with a hammer, based on fracture patterns. The stolen plate tied Karen to theft, and her ex-posts, riddled with contradictions, weakened her defense. She faced charges of petty theft and fraud, with a court date set for spring. Sarah warned Emily that Karen might settle, avoiding jail, but the legal consequences were a fine, community service, and a restraining order barring her from Harper's Homeware. Karen's connections in City Hall turned out to be exaggerated. A clerk she'd bullied into favors distanced himself, unwilling to risk his job. In court, Karen's arrogance crumbled. She stood before the judge, her face drawn, no longer the towering figure who'd terrorized Emily's shop. She pleaded guilty to reduced charges, her voice barely audible. Emily watched from the gallery, Mrs. Clara at her side. She felt no joy, only relief. Karen's punishment wasn't just legal, it was social. Willow Creek's shopkeepers, united by her antics, banned her one by one. Her ex-account went silent, her rants ignored. She'd built her power on fear, but fear only lasts until someone stands up. Emily's shop thrived in the aftermath. The publicity from Jake's video drew customers from neighboring towns, eager to support a business that fought back. Emily used the extra revenue to restore her grandmother's rose-pattern plates, commissioning a local artisan to recreate them. She hung one above the counter, a symbol of resilience. Mrs. Clara became a regular, bringing homemade cookies and stories of her own battles. Jake stopped by too, his phone now capturing photos of new dishware displays. The inspiring truth settled over Emily like a warm blanket. She hadn't just saved her shop, she'd sparked a movement. Small business owners in Willow Creek began sharing their stories, forming a network to warn each other about scams. They called it the Harper Pact, a nod to Emily's stand. At a town meeting, the bakery owner raised a glass to her, saying, "You reminded us we're stronger together." Emily blushed, her heart full. She thought of her grandmother, who'd taught her that every plate, like every person, carried a story worth protecting. Karen's shadow lingered, but it no longer loomed. Emily heard she'd moved to a new town, her reputation trailing her like a storm cloud. Standing behind her counter, Emily traced the rose pattern on a new plate, her fingers steady. She'd faced a bully, uncovered a truth, and built something stronger than porcelain, a community that wouldn't break. The shop's bell jingled as a new customer entered, and Emily smiled. This was her legacy now, and no one could take it away.